Okay, class, we are deriving the quadratic formula today, and we're going to use these steps. So when you derive the quadratic formula, you are simply completing the square on the standard form of a quadratic, which is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, I'm going to try and color code this so it matches the steps. So we're going to subtract c from both sides. This is step 1. So minus c. Okay, that will leave us with ax squared plus bx equals negative c. So that is step 1 right there. Step 2 is to divide everything by a so that our first term is a square. So that this will no longer be an ax squared, it'll just be an x squared, which is something we can take the square root of. So I'm now going to divide everything by a. So the whole left side and right side by a. That will leave me with x squared plus b over ax equals negative c over a. So that is step 2. That's all pretty straightforward. The tricky part is steps 3 and 4. This is where we kind of go out of order. We start to write the factored form of a perfect square before we've even added anything, but then we use that to tell us what to add. So now I've told you what to add over here in step 3, so you could just simply follow the steps and not understand what you're doing. But it's better if you understand what you're doing. So what we're going to do is we are going to skip ahead to step 4, which is to write it in factored form like this. And the way we figure out what goes there is we take half of this coefficient. So we do half of b over a. And then half of b over a, if you do 1/2 times b over a, you get b over 2a. And so that's the factored form of this quadratic. And then we use that to inform us as to what we should add to make it a completed square. Okay, so this is the factored form of the completed square. We don't even have the trinomial form of the completed square yet, but we're going to use what we want to tell us what to add. So this is where we're kind of going backwards. We did step 4 already, and now we are going to use that to tell us what we needed to add to complete the square in step 3. So you square this term, so b over 2a squared, so you square it, okay? B over 2a squared comes out to b squared over 4a squared. So we're going to add b squared over 4a squared to both sides. B squared over 4a squared. So now the next tricky part here is actually adding those two expressions together. But you should have a much better idea of what we do with that since we've been adding and subtracting rational expressions this past week. So now that should make a lot more sense to you. In order to do this, we need to have common denominators. So the fraction on the left needs something to be multiplied to it so that it can match that fraction denominator. So we're going to multiply both the top and the bottom by 4a. If we multiply the top and the bottom by 4a, that'll give us common denominators of 4a squared. So 4a squared. So we have the common denominator, okay? And then 4a times negative c, we're going to call it negative 4ac. And so now we've got common denominators. And when we add this together, it's all going to be over that same denominator of 4a squared. Those are not like terms, so we just get to put them in whatever order we want because of the commutative property of addition. So we're going to write it this way: b squared minus 4ac. So that's the hard part. Those two steps, getting all of that together. So that was steps 3 and 4 all at once. Now, step 5, it's kind of intuitive. You're just going to want to take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to take the square root. This is step 5 here. And on the left, the square and the square root will cancel each other out. So I'm left with x plus b over 2a. And then over here on the right, remember whenever you introduce a square root into an equation, you have to include both the positive and negative roots. So when we split this into numerator and denominator with our radical, we are going to get positive or negative, okay? And it's going to be b squared minus 4ac in the numerator In the denominator, the square root of 4a squared. So the square root of 4a squared is simply 2a. And then the numerator, we can't take the square root of that, so we're going to just write it as positive or negative. Square root of b squared minus 4ac. And then we're almost there. The last step here is to add negative b over 2a. We're going to isolate that x. So if we add a negative b over 2a to both sides, you can see that we already have common denominators. The numerators are not like terms, so they just go next to each other. We end up with negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, and there is the quadratic formula. That is deriving the quadratic formula. So those are the 6 steps, and that's how you do it. All right, thanks, Donnie.